Well, welcome to another Achieve Mastery in Your Acrylic Portion session here at Realistic Acrylic Portrait School. I'm mattphilleo, and I'm a professional artist and instructor. And I'm looking forward to sharing this portrait here by my student Merle. This is in the series of the Sfumato acrylic glazing technique method that I'm showing and demonstrating here to you in the school. And this is a printout of my student Merle's canvas. And previously I showed a version that was her sketch with several layers that I painted on top. And this is her painting where she's working over in Canada. I'm in Wisconsin, and just devised this technique that we can kind of almost like be in the same studio together with a canvas print of her painting. And then I'll be demonstrating on top how to make some adjustments, some changes to help her with it. She feels a little bit stuck right now. I think overall she's pretty happy with this portrait, and she should be. Merle, you should be. It's a great job. You know, the colors are fantastic. There's great saturation. There's excellent gradation as well. Really nice, smooth skin tones, and I like that blending that you've achieved. I think, you know, some of the tonal values could be adjusted a little bit. Maybe a little bit of some of the forms of certain facial features. And we'll be addressing that in this lesson. So if you're curious as to how to make some adjustments in your own acrylic portrait, feel free to watch over my shoulder as I paint and demonstrate. That's what this is all about, is helping you to become a better portrait painter, more confident, even when you're going through difficult times. I had a pretty difficult morning today, but hey, it's afternoon, so let's have fun painting. Doesn't matter what's going on around us, what kind of difficulties are around us in the world or in our own lives. Here in our studio or wherever you call your place that you paint, we can just enjoy it. God is with us, He'll help us, and this is what we're called to do, is to beautify the world with the gift God has given us. I'm going to open up with a word of prayer, and then we're going to get into painting. So Father, I ask a blessing on the session. Help me to be able to show Merle the next steps in this painting process. I ask, please give her peace and confidence that she can do this, like your word says in Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And Lord, despite the trials I've been going through, I can teach this lesson well. I trust that you'll guide me every brushstroke, every step. Bless this time of painting in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. So we're going to begin. I've got my colors here on the palette. I've shown these to you before, but just in case you're new to this: Ombre Dark, Burnt Sienna, Raw Sienna, Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Alizarin Crimson, Naphthalene Red, Indian Yellow, and Titanium White. And sometimes I put down Organic Orange as well. I'm not sure why I didn't do that. Let's just kind of stick some of that onto the palette because we're going to need it. I'll just put it next to the Naphthalene Red, and it can be really close to the Indian Yellow. They don't mind. They get along very, very well. So, and then I do want to also put some matte medium. That's what we glaze with. That's just clear acrylic polymer resin without the pigment. Dries to a flat finish, and I love it. I think it's great for painting. So I'll show you how to use it here. So typically with the Sfumato glazing technique, you would use a pretty transparent or translucent approach. We're going to have to go a little more semi-opaque here to lighten up some of the areas, and that's fine. There's more than one way to get a painting done. But let's begin by just kind of assessing the image, the painting image versus the reference photo. So in the reference photo, what I'm discerning is just a higher state of contrast. I see more contrast between the illuminated side of the face and the non-illuminated side. And in the painting, we've lost some of that contrast, and that can often happen. We have a little bit of adjustments that need to take place with some of the forms, like the eyebrows are not quite in the right position. A couple of areas like the eyes need some adjusting in tonal value. We've got to get that eye a little bit darker because it's in the shaded side of the face. The form of that iris is not quite right. And then we need to also get the lips adjusted where the lower lip is larger than the upper lip. That's something that needs to happen as well. This particular crease in the chin is too dark. And that often happens as we paint. We see certain details and then we tend to overemphasize them in our minds because we observe them and we think they're important, which they are. But then we do tend to oversaturate or add too much contrast to those particular details or heighten them, and they just stick out too much, and that detracts from the realism. So as you're painting, you always want to observe, you know, not just what you see in the detail, but you ask yourself how light or how dark should this be in relationship to other spots in the painting. That's okay, we can make this adjustment. But again, I love the shading, I love the smoothness, I love the color saturation. It's so vivid, so alive. And so again, Merle, fantastic job. Let's go ahead and we'll take this this small filbert brush. It's like about a quarter filbert, and I think it's about the right size to make a few adjustments. What I'm going to do is mix a glaze here, spray my palette real quick, make sure everything is not drying out. Okay, so we're going to start with yeah, we're going to lighten up a little bit of that left-hand side, I think, just a bit. We're going to start with some titanium white, mix some matte medium into it, get it fluid, get it a little more translucent. I start with titanium white because I know that I'm going lighter. So I always start with titanium white if I know I'm going lighter, unless the value is almost close to black, in which case I might use an opaque color like raw sienna. The titanium white is very opaque as a pigment. So we start with that, then we go next to raw sienna, which, you know, because we have to get this color warmer. It can't be just straight white, obviously. So that's the next color we're going to use. Is we're adding a nice earthy yellow. I didn't choose Indian yellow because Indian yellow is a very transparent pigment, and it's a little more vibrant than what we need. I'm going to take burnt sienna next to get kind of the orange spectrum. Now I could use organic orange, but that's a little vibrant too, so burnt sienna is less vibrant, and the darker the tonal value. So we're looking at our scale, you know, if you imagine this in comparison to white, it's quite dark, and so the color is not as vibrant, so we use more earthy tones when the color is darker, as a general rule of thumb. We mix these colors together. That might get us something close, just these two colors, so let's see where we're at. And the best way is just to simply test it, place it on the canvas and see. I look at it and I say it's not going to be light enough. I already went a little too dark, so I'm going to add a little more titanium white to this and lighten it up. Now as I lighten it up, I realize that titanium white desaturates our colors, so we might need to warm it up a little bit. Because if you don't do that, you're going to end up with kind of a chalky color. But this might be good enough for what we need here. So I think this could work. I'll show this color to you on the white card. That's what that looks like. And we'll just kind of place it in. And what I like to do is just dab the edges of the application with my finger, and that develops a little blending. Because with acrylic, we don't have the benefit of oils where they can be blended wet on wet. Everything is done dry. But I prefer acrylic. I like the fast drying time. I much prefer it to oils. I don't like the toxicity or messiness of oils. But that's a video for another day. Okay, so I'm applying this and I'm dabbing it a little bit. And just really trying to get that application smooth. So it's not going to blend all the way into this color here. We got to get a color to segue out of this into that. But notice if I have any little holes in here where it didn't apply smoothly, I can always fill it in just with the corner of my brush and get that application as smooth as I want. Now, I apply it, kind of dry brush it a little bit. See, now we're developing a little sfumato, even though it's traditionally done the other way as dark on light. We're going light on dark, but we can still kind of get that sfumato effect here. Now at this point, I'll need to blend out of this. So I'm going to rinse off my brush. And then we'll be adding another application to that as well. But let's work on that gradient. We can use the same brush. And let's take this color because we know it, it's what we just got done using. Let's add some burnt sienna to the right of this particular mixing area. And I'm going to add just a little bit of organic orange. And we'll get a nice color here. I'm going to add a little more matte medium. So the opacity level of this glaze is probably about 50%. I'm going to apply this here, and I notice that doesn't work. The color is too light. So we'll need to darken it. I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna and just a bit of alizarin crimson. I want to introduce just a little red. Alizarin crimson is a darker pigment. I think this will get us a pretty good match. Here is the color on the white card. It's a little darker. Now I can take this then and apply it over the area right here. And so that kind of blends in. I'm going to get us a round brush that I can get a little more precision. So I have a size 4 round brush. Now I'm going to pull something out of these two areas. I have my darker spectrum on the right, lighter on the left. And that corresponds to these three colors we see here, darker to light. And I'm going to get a nice blend in. Okay, that glaze I just put down was too light, so now I'm going a little darker. So it takes a little bit of, there's the new color. It takes a little bit of trial and error until you can get it right. This might be the right color right here. Now we use this then to develop a gradient to blend into that lighter mixture. Okay, and we're going to bring this all the way up to the edge, just kind of feather it in. Blend it in. Okay, just kind of blend this in like that. And I'm going to grab a slightly lighter part of my mixture, and I'm going to get a little bit of a gradient here. Using brush strokes in various directions. Some going this way, some going up. That's what really gets the gradient achieved. Dab it a little bit if you need to. You can see how we're lightening this whole area here. And her cheek is just a little bit narrow. That could come out more. But for that, we're going to have to add a little raw umber dark to this color. Here's the new color on the white card. And then we're going to bring out that cheek on the left-hand side. Just adding a little bit of mass to it. Like that. Okay. Let's continue pulling from this middle part. This section here is too dark. Let's lighten that up a little bit. Okay, now you'll notice that it looks good as it goes over this section, but as it gets to the very edge, it kind of stands out a little too much. So we need to darken that color. We'll add a little bit of raw umber dark to this mixture. That is a darker color that's a little less saturated. Here it is on the white card. it's more appropriate to use than, let's say, something that has a lot of red in it. Right, so we blend that. And there we go. Now, I'm going to pull from this medium part, and I'm going to add a glaze in right here to kind of warm it up, because this section to the left of her lip is too light in value. So we need to blend that out. So blend that out just like that. And then let's take care of that dark crevice there. Let's use this color. In fact, I'm just going to spray my palette again quickly. Keep these paints from drying out. I know some people use a stay wet palette. I just prefer aluminum foil. It's worked well for me. Stay wet palettes just tend to disintegrate and the paper gets all mushy. That's what I've found from experience. So I'm going to lighten up that area. Let's see if we can grab a slightly lighter color. Here's our mixture on the white card. I'm just going to dab that off because I don't think it was quite right. Okay, so as we apply that, the color, because it doesn't cover all the way, is a little bit of translucency. It's going to look slightly muddy on the first layer. So it's going to take one more layer or two to really smooth that out. But that's enough just to, lighten that up. Okay, this is already dry, this section here. I want to lighten this up again. So I'm going to go back to a round brush. I have a different round brush. The one I had wasn't behaving. You ever have that where the brushes just don't do what you want them to do? And once they're trained that way, it's really hard to untrain them. So anyway, I'm taking some titanium white, raw sienna, just kind of adding more because I used up what was on here. And maybe getting a slightly lighter color, add just a little bit of organic orange, kind of a red-orange color. And here it is on our white card, and let's see if we can add this here. Nope, not light enough. Let's add a little titanium white, and let's not mix it into the whole thing because we want to have, a version of the color that's a little bit lighter as well. So that way then we have a big gradient of colors to work with. So we're going to add a little titanium white and Indian yellow now, and a touch of organic orange just so it's not too yellow of a color. Again, as we get lighter in tonal value, we want to use these warmer colors here. That's important. All right, so here we go. Now we add that on there. Whew, boy, that just really stands out. We have to keep in mind, though, that acrylic does dry a little bit darker. Oh, and by the way, here's that color on the white card. Now notice how opaque that is. You can barely see the black line going through it. So we know that it's not that bright. It's not that bright. So just adjusting the microphone quickly here, making sure my sound is okay. I was noticing a little peaking on the sound meter. Okay, well, I got to get this on here before that dries. Yep, so we're applying this, and just want to keep a wet edge. Now, I find a round brush is nice, even though it's not typically what you'd think of using for blending, but it does give you a lot of precision. And let's just make sure we leave room for that wrinkle, and then, yeah, it's a little bit darker here. So we apply this right there. But again, like I was saying, it is semi-opaque there. So that allows us to get a nice application of paint. So we have a good shape here, but now we've got to blend it out. So now we're going to take what's on our brush. This is important. Wipe it off, squeeze it out. Okay, leave some of that paint on there. Then dip into a darker color. Okay, right here. And then we're going to see what it is. Nope, it's not. It's too light. So let's add a little burnt sienna. Just a little bit of organic orange. Little matte medium. Okay, now let's see if we can get a color while this is still wet to mix out of. It's not bad, but it's a little too yellow. So we add some red. Organic orange is a little more red. Add just a tiny bit of naphthyl red. And that's going to shift that color just a little bit. Here's the color on the white card. So hopefully this will be able to blend out of this glaze. Show you close up what we've got going on. This is tricky. I'm not going to lie. It's tricky, but you can do it. Dab it a little bit. You have to be patient with this. Okay, so now we've got that lighter area there. We've got a little shading here. Let's dip our brush because I'm trying to adjust the nose here and lighten up that shadow to the left of the nose, but the color I have on my brush is too dark, so I've got to dip into something lighter. Here's that color on the white card, just a tiny bit lighter than what we had, and then this is going to allow us to get a gradient here to the left of the nose. Now you have to really push that paint in. Notice how many times I'm brushing in the same area just to really get that paint to fill the grooves of the canvas and to smooth out. Like, you have to really go over it many times for it to be smooth, even in a small area like this. So I'm going to zoom it in just a little bit more so you really can see any brush texture here. But yeah, so just to get that smooth, you have to go over it quite a few times. And then sometimes you'll dig a hole in the paint, but you can smooth it out by using a light amount of pressure. Now I have a line there and I don't like it. I'm going to rinse off my brush because it feels like I have too much paint in the bristles right now, and so it's just time to kind of rinse this off. Sorry for all the mess here, but yeah, it's just kind of how I roll, I guess. Working on getting cleaner, but creativity is more of my strong suit than cleanliness. But so what I'm doing now is just trying to create a little bit of a gradient here. So we're going to pull from this lighter part of the mix right in here. And we want to get that line. Yeah, there we go. That's good. That's good. Now here's the color on the white card so you can see that. They're a little lighter. We want to get that line kind of just massaged out a bit. Just massaged. That's nice. So that's good, and then that will allow us to bring that almost all the way up to the edge of the nose using very light pressure and just kind of dabbing it. And we can overlap it into the lighter area. See, and that can blend it even more. You can maybe see if you can bring it down a little bit and dab it for a gradient, because dabbing is one of our blending techniques. If you remember my 5 fantastic blending techniques, dabbing is a great way to develop a sfumato kind of look. And then we'll lighten it up just a little bit right here as well. Okay. Now as you get towards the edge where the value's darker, then this particular color works less and less effectively. So at some point we might have to switch. But sometimes you can really get a sense and a feel for how your glaze is working. And here, I want to get it as much mileage as I can. See, because I have enough layers on here already where I can really now kind of use this dabbing technique to blend it out. It just works. I can feel it. I mean, it's kind of, you just get a feel for how things are going to work out. So what we accomplished is we lightened up this area. Okay, and I think that's added more volume to her face. We do need to really darken that iris. So maybe we can work on that next. The lip is another area to work on too, but I'm just going to spray my palette again. And we'll work on the iris, and then I think we'll call this video done because we're just about filling up all the slots on our white card. So, all right, let me start with that mixture. What we want to do is take some raw umber dark ultramarine blue. We want a little more blue than brown, but we do need some of that brown to really get the right color. I'm going to take a little titanium white as well. That was too much, so now I have to add more raw umber dark and ultramarine blue. Okay. Now, when you're adding raw umber dark and ultramarine blue, you get a nice gray, but the mixture is just a little bit to the greenish side. So if you add a little bit of alizarin crimson, which is a complementary color, that red to green, then you can pull that color a little bit more out of the greenish tint to more of a violet tint. So sometimes you need to do that. It's necessary. Let's take a look at this color on the white card. Looks very gray, but as we're getting to the edge of the iris, we need a color that's less saturated. I'll just move the camera up a bit. Okay, what we want to do is bring that iris out a little to the left. So I'm just adding on with this round brush. You don't need a really small brush for this. You just need to get it to a nice point, get that paint fluid, and have a brush where it's not all splayed out at the end. Like, I abuse my brushes with this technique, so I'm constantly getting new brushes, and usually I only get a few nice ones and a lot of cheaper ones, but got to make sure your brush is to a nice tip, paint's very fluid, and then you can do this. So don't be afraid to spray your palette, add a little matte medium to it as well. Okay, so we got the iris moved out just a bit, and that's good. The other thing is, let's use this color, even though it's not quite the right color, it's close enough. Let's bring down that eyelid a little bit. It's open, the eye is open a bit too wide. So we're just going to close the eye a little bit more with this glaze. Okay. And then we need to fill this center part in, but this color is not quite the right color for that. It's close. But what we need to do is pull in some of this lighter bluish mixture. So if you don't have that already, you can make it with titanium white, ultramarine blue, and raw umber dark. Okay, we'll add a little bit of white to this, a little bit more blue, just a tiny bit of phthalo blue as well. A little bit more phthalo blue, a little bit more ultramarine blue. Okay, we want to get a decent blue that's not too strong. We'll test this color out. Here it is on our white card, and I think that should be pretty close. We just want to darken that iris, zoom in so you can see. Now we lost the pupil. Don't worry about that. We'll get that back in. We will kind of let that dry just for a moment. While we're mixing the color for the pupil, it might just dry in that amount of time. Raw umber dark, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson. That gives us a really nice dark color. It's almost like black. Show you this color, raw umber dark, ultramarine blue, a bit of alizarin crimson. Here is the color on the white card. Boy, that's dark. Might even be too dark. Yeah, it just doesn't match the rest of the tonal values, so I need to lighten it up. It could be the print. It could be that the print didn't capture the full range, but I don't want to have it standing out, so I'm going to lighten it up with this other color that we just mixed, you know, for the iris. Okay, here's that color on the white card, just a little bit lighter. Just, again, want it to match. Yeah, it's still a little dark. Lighten it up a little more to account for that. Okay. Now we get in that pupil. Reflection on the eye might have to be repainted a little bit. That's okay. We're going to just darken this edge a bit. All right, so we go ahead and, yep, I know we already went over that area, but let's go over it again. And we'll just kind of get a nice shape in here. We don't want to do a perfect circle all the way around. Have a few little striations in there, but don't overdo it either. Just a couple. It's all about the nuance. Get a little bit of shading on the top, and don't be afraid to let this color of the iris bleed into the color of the eyelid as well. So we'll do that. Could actually use this color probably into the upper eyelid fold if we go very light. Like that. All right, so that gives us a good idea of what's going on. I'm just going to pull in a slightly lighter version of this mixture here. And I just want to get a little resolution right here in this area. Get this a little bit lighter right there. Okay. Okay, so now with that, I just have to do the other eye. I can't leave one eye done. Okay, let's see if we can add a few adjustments to the other eye so we can stop at a good stopping point. Let's go ahead and just kind of darken the pupil here. Same color we used before. Darken the top of the iris a little bit. And then let's just add a little bit of that blue. I'll kind of mix a little bit more because this color can be a bit more saturated on the right hand side because the values are lighter. Ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, mix it into this particular glaze right here. Okay, so we're going to do that. Add just a bit of titanium white. Here's a color on the white card, and then just fill that in right in there. Just so we get these colors to match a little bit more. Right, so we will stop off here. What we were able to accomplish was to lighten, this side of the face. There's a lot more work to do, but this is, will take a little bit of work. We lightened that side of the face a little bit, made some adjustments to the irises and also to the chin. In the next video, we'll be doing more. We'll be probably lightening up some of these illuminated sides and making some adjustments to the shadows on the interior of the eye, because that needs to be done as well. But I hope this video has been helpful for you, Merle, and everyone else watching. Thank you so much. If you're curious about this process, if you'd like to learn more about the glazing technique, go to realisticacrylic.com, where I have several tips, tutorials, videos, even some free classes there that you can learn from. And I'm looking forward to sharing more with you. So thank you so much for watching this video. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.